What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Happy freaking Monday. Welcome to the Vanguard Project. This is the second episode of 2022, and I am super excited. As a refresher, this podcast focuses on telling stories. I've tried to sum up my mission as growth through story, strength through community. And what I mean by that is I sit down with folks and have them share their stories with the goal of picking their brain on lessons learned, diving into their experiences, mindsets, and tools developed to hopefully share with you. My goal is that as you listen, you can take things away from these guests and get you excited about something, maybe motivated, find a community to join in, or tools that you can take back to your day-to-day life and maximize your life experience with. With all that being said, I do my best to let the interviewee tell their story and practice active listening to dive deeper into the conversation. So that's my style. I hope you all take some awesome tidbits away, as I've learned an incredible amount from the folks I've sat down with and have been repeatedly humbled by all of those I've engaged with. Along the same lines, I'm extremely fortunate to be supported by several companies in this venture. People like Eberlestock, Black Rifle Coffee, Mountain Primal, and Bravo Concealment. In the episode description will be the codes I would love for you all to use and get great deals on. Each week will be brought to you by one of these amazing companies. This week is brought to you by Eberlestock, and I'm extremely honored to have been a friend of the brand and of the people for several years now. They are amazing people and produce some of the best damn gear I've ever played with. One of my favorite pieces is the Bruno hoodie. They come in a variety of colors, which means it includes a gray, so it is indeed public friendly. You don't necessarily have to wear camo, but they are super soft, lightweight hoodie designed to keep, really they're designed to keep the sun off your skin, but function as an awesome base layer for hunting, hiking, snowshoeing, coffee shop visits, or casual Fridays at the office. I would love for you all to call Tucker at the retail store, let them know that I sent you, and maybe get 1, 2, 3, maybe 5, whatever the case may be. But enough chat. I've tried so many times to get these words out, and I had to type it up because I was rambling on and on. So let's get an awesome episode rolling with Mr. Shane Meisel of Leupold. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Vanguard Project. For those of you new to the show, my name is Austin Jardine, and I'm just some dude outside of Boise, Idaho, who I've been really fortunate to get connected with some folks and start this podcast. And my goal with it is really to share their stories, help them share some of the lessons learned, some of the things that they've gone through to get to where they're at, and hopefully give you some good insight, frame of reference, and maybe something to lean on to try something new, get excited, or maybe find a new hobby. With that being said, I've got Mr. Shane Meisel on the phone with me, and Shane works at Leupold, and I'm super excited because he and I connected. I totally did a Google stalking on him. I was telling him a little bit. I'm like, he seems like the kind of guy I want to talk to. So Shane, I know we're talking just before Christmas, so happy almost Christmas. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So normally how this goes is, if you don't mind, just kind of introducing yourself and kind of what you do, and then I'll start to interrupt and kind of just ask some questions along the way.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Shane. I run marketing over at Leupold, the sports optics company. And that's basically me. That's my identity at this point. I've got 2.5 kids, as I like to say. I've got 2 children and a stepdaughter that I'm raising. We live here in Oregon, just outside of Portland, where Leupold's corporate headquarters are, and where we've been for over 114 years. I'm from Oregon, born and raised, went to the University of Oregon for my undergrad, went and got my master's at Portland State. Kind of lived all over the state, but yeah, Pacific Northwest, born and raised.
That's awesome. I like how humbly you put that. I run marketing at Leupold. I feel like the audience that I target knows Leupold very well. So did you kind of grow up in the industry, or did you develop the love for the outdoors and hunting and down the road?
So I did not grow up in the industry at all. I mean, I grew up, as I said, in the Pacific Northwest. So there were a lot of outdoor experience, being a Boy Scout growing up and then just going backpacking and camping with my dad and those sorts of things. So the outdoors were not new, but the hunting industry was new. I actually started my career out of college with a company called Geldwin, which is a window and door manufacturing company that was based here in Oregon, was the world's largest window and door manufacturing company. And then from there, I went to work at a company called Stanley Black and Decker, which does tools.
Mhm.
And then from there, so what I was doing at both of those companies was product marketing. Basically, there's different titles at different companies, but the roles are basically the same. It's either product marketing manager, product line manager, or category manager, or brand manager. But a lot of the tasks are very, very similar. And so I was doing that, and there was a friend of mine from college that worked at Leupold in the IT department, and there was an opening in their product marketing group for a binocular and spotting scope manager. And he called me and was like, "Hey, isn't this kind of what you do?" I was like, "Yeah, I can do that." So I ended up interviewing and got the job, and that was over 10 years ago, and then sort of just progressed within the company. As I said, I started as the product marketing manager for binoculars and spotting scopes here at Leupold. And then I took over as the trade marketing manager in the marketing department. Then I became the director of international sales and marketing. And then we did a little bit of a reorg and moved all marketing back under one department. And then that's what I do now, is I run that business unit, if you will.
Yeah, that's a journey. So did you spend so I know that you and I talked about this before we started recording, but what's your education background? I mean, did you come with a ton of experience in marketing, or did you fall into that?
I fell into it, but you know, not to be too new age, I feel like I was always drawn to it. When I was growing up and people would ask me what I want to do, when I got beyond the I want to be a firefighter astronaut phase, I would always say I want to be in marketing. And I didn't really understand what that meant.
Mhm.
But I knew I didn't want to be in sales. And that was kind of it. So I just came to it. And when I graduated from college, so I got my degree in economics. So I was much more, I'm sort of analytical by nature and a numbers guy by nature, and really enjoyed economics and economic theory and being able to predict human behavior using, scarcity of resources and motivations and intrinsic utility and those sorts of things. That was all very fascinating to me. So I went and got that degree. And then, like we were talking before the show, when you have an economics degree, what do you do then? Right? The career opportunities available to you right out of school when you're that young, when you think, is basically, I can go become a financial advisor at, AXA or Country Financial or whatever the companies are that sort of recruit those college age kids, and, pimp my internal list to see if they let me tell them how to manage their funds as a 22, 23-year-old kid. Or I can try and do something else. I was very fortunate. Either the University of Oregon, where I went to school, has a career fair that they would bring in a lot of big companies to recruit young kids. And one of those companies was Geldwin. I did the initial interviews with them. They make you take, and they would come to the company, or I'm sorry, they would come to the colleges around Oregon, Washington, Idaho, that sort of area, to recruit kids to become group managers and enter into their management development program. The group managers were people that ran an assembly line or a manufacturing line at the different production facilities.
Okay.
That was what they were mainly recruiting for. But they made you take an aptitude test before you could progress in the along the process. And I took the aptitude test, and based on that score, they said, you know what, we're going to send you to corporate, and we want you to work as an associate product marketing manager, which was very, very cool. So I took that job and I moved to Klamath Falls, Oregon, which is the whole Klamath Basin is about 25,000 people, or it was back then.
Yeah.
So real small town type feel, but actually a really neat a really neat transition for, still a young kid out of school and trying to figure things out. That there was a lot of familiarity with people. I mean, there was a really family feel to that company, so you didn't get yourself in too much trouble, right? You didn't get lost in New York or something like that, and
Sure.
and go down too deep of a rabbit hole. But anyway, so I went and started doing that job, and my boss at the time, he got promoted about 6 months in, or maybe 8 months into that job, and so they then promoted me into the um, product marketing manager role for what was called the Style and Rail division, which is all wood doors, interior and exterior wood doors. Um, so as a 23-year-old kid, I'm running a $300 million division.
Yeah.
And that was, and so I got very, very lucky. I think Geldwin was a very smart company in that they went and they recruited potential talent. They gave them the freedom and the tools to succeed or fail, but not fail too big.
Sure.
And it allowed me to grow. And so that's how, short story long, that's how I sort of really got into marketing.
Okay.
Something I always wanted to do, but just got dumb lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that sort of set the trajectory of my career moving forward.
Okay. So a couple of things I'm thinking about, and I know that you were not to get new agey, but when you were talking about kind of the feeling of being drawn into marketing, right? I know that my audience is pretty young, right? I think that either active duty, coming out of, whatever, going into college. And that I think probably speaks to some folks. Can you talk about what that feeling of being drawn to marketing was, so that maybe people can help identify that for themselves?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to put words on it. With all the electronics that we have nowadays, and just the sort of societal programming we have, most people have shut off what's called their intuition, or what people call intuition. I don't know, maybe there's other words for it, sixth sense or whatever you want to call it. But and that's actually one of the neat things about the outdoors, if you actually get into the outdoors and turn off all those external distractions and just sort of sit quietly for a little bit and just listen to, the birds and the wind and the trees and all that sort of thing, your mind will start sort of telling you things. And so it's hard for me to identify. It wasn't like there was a voice saying, you should go to marketing, but it was always like, whenever anything about marketing came on television or anyone talked about marketing, it just was, in my gut, something that just sparked an interest. There was an internal sort of like flash of focus.
Okay.
And then I had people in my life that would, I would always make jokes or, come up with creative sayings that I thought were creative at the time. Now they're, I'm sure, very juvenile and stupid. But my dad or teachers would always be like, "You'd be a great marketer." They had no idea what that actually meant either. What it truly means to be a marketer. But that there was just so many different subtle signs pointing in that direction.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe the dumb question then is why study economics? Because the reason you studied economics is very much the same reason I studied economics, right?
Yeah.
Is I like the way that I thought about it, kind of knowing that my marketing does tap into psychology, but the economics was much more mathematically based psychology. The way I kind of thought about it is like, when you make a decision, okay, what were the obvious signs that dictated the decision being made, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you study economics versus marketing?
Similar is that I was just drawn to it. I took some low-level econ classes. I was originally, so when I got to school, I went through 5 different majors until I figured out what I wanted to do. Right.
Yeah,
I started
right.
I was a physics major. Then I was a psychology major. I was a poli-sci major. I was a business major. And then I was an econ major.
Nice.
In those business classes. So I was trying to, I was doing actually what you should do in college, which is figuring out what you like. Unfortunately, that's a little expensive to do in college, but whatever. I made a lot of mistakes and got to where I am. So it worked out. But in initial business courses, they make you take the econ courses, just the low level ones, the 202, 203 courses. And that I found those fascinating. I really enjoyed the ability, I did not get into the econometrics and data regression analysis and, 3 times standard deviations and all those sorts of things. Like I can do it, but that was more just like a necessary evil to the other piece of it, which was being able to lay out predictive models of behavior based on known and unknown factors. I found that very fascinating. And I actually think that ties very, very well into marketing, or at least how I do marketing, right? So marketing has got a lot of different facets, right? There's functional marketing sort of execution pieces where you've got your signage in stores, or you've got your promotions, or you've got to send an email or do digital advertisement. Then there's the branding component of things, right? Where you're trying to make sure you leave a feeling with the consumer, that the consumer has a certain opinion about your company based on the name of it, really. I mean, branding, when you boil it all down, is just how you want a person to feel about your company when they leave. But I look at marketing overall as problem solving. I think it's actually a very strategic venture. And how do I explain this? To use a sports analogy, I look at marketing as a quarterback on a football team, and like sales is your running back or receiver, right? So the quarterback has to come up to the line, survey the field, understand what's probably going to happen, call a play, and then execute. Right now that they drop back, they have to hand the ball off, and other people on that team have to run that play and execute it. So having that economics background and being able to sort of theorize or put in predictive models of how things should transpire based on a bunch of different, factors, I think actually really helps you be a solid strategic marketer. Now, again, that's sort of at the very high level of marketing. There's a lot of different roles within marketing that have nothing to do with that, right? If I want to be a graphic designer or a videographer or a copywriter, or even like a social media manager or a digital marketing manager, like that's not necessary. Economics probably wouldn't have helped me there.
Sure.
But the path that I went to and then where I ended, it made perfect sense because they were much more about solving larger problems through the use of marketing tools than they were executing marketing.
Okay. So in your early days, then, do you feel like you learned a lot of the skills needed to kind of look at that high level picture and be able to discern the types of problems you need to solve? Because like, I can picture, at least in my life and my work too, right? Like I can totally conceptualize, excuse me, what you're saying, but like, there's a lot of like intricacies there. How did you learn and develop into those areas?
That's a great question. And honestly, it was trial and error. I made a lot of mistakes, but one of the things that I'm very, I think has served me very well in my life is a relative lack of ego. And I will make the joke, like, I'm the humblest person I know, but, I've never approached any situation, or I've tried not to approach any situation saying, I know what I'm doing. So I've always walked in. So how do I phrase this? Any one of my high school or college coaches will tell you I am highly coachable. My CEO right now will tell you I'm highly coachable because I want to learn and I want to get better. And so that's sort of how I developed. I never went into any situation thinking, wow, I got this job because I'm the best. I went into every situation almost with a little bit of imposter syndrome, where it's like, I can't believe I have this job. I hope I don't fuck it up.
Right.
And so because of that, I was always eager to learn and get information from other people that would know more than me, or, do research online, or just figure out how to do something as best I could, and that's how I was able to learn all of those tools. Was basically, to summarize it, I guess, is being humble and accepting that, knowing that I was going to succeed no matter what, but knowing that I had to figure out how to do it, and it wasn't just going to happen. I mean, that's one of the most powerful, I guess, lessons of life that I learned. Is, so I got that initial job at Geldwin, and then I got that promotion, and I was terrified. And I was like, I felt like I didn't know what I was doing at all.
Yeah.
So I went back to school and got my MBA in international business. And what I realized after getting that advanced degree was that nobody knows what they're doing. I just had $56,000 additional dollars of debt now, but everyone's full of shit, and they're all just hoping to get it right. And so if you can understand that, then you can operate within that environment, right? But there are no right answers, I guess, when it comes to business, and everyone's just trying to figure it out. There's a lot of theories out there, and there's a lot of different models you can use, but really nobody knows what they're doing, and they're just trying to make it work. And so it's okay for you to not know what you're doing, as long as you are trying your best for the organizations you're working for, the people that you support, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
As long as you're not being selfish, and as long as you're trying to achieve the end goal, you'll be fine.
Yeah. So why go get an MBA versus self-study?
That's a phenomenal question. Back then, this was back in 2000. When did I start? 2005. There really wasn't the trend that there is nowadays, of that you don't need education, or you don't need a formal degree to do what you want to do. Back then, actually, when I was graduating from college, one of my economics professors said to me, this is really great, but everybody nowadays has a bachelor's degree. It's basically like a high school diploma. If you want to set yourself aside, you need to go get an advanced degree. I mean, that's what the professors were telling kids at the time. And so that stuck in my head. And that's why I went to go get that advanced degree. Now, looking back on it, yeah, I as I said, I gained a lot of expensive knowledge from that I probably could have gained just through self-study.
Right.
But hindsight is 2020.
Yep. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I've contemplated higher degrees or different degrees, kind of just off and on thinking about it. But there's a lot of, at least now, there's a lot of other ways to go do it, right? There's like, it's Linda and like the MIT courses online, and there's like 1,000 other ways to go get more. You spend $100 and you get this specific piece of information that is like immediately applicable. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think if you're not going to go like be a doctor or a lawyer, like something that requires specific licensing, that you can gain the knowledge. Actually, one of the most talented people we have here at Leupold is self-taught in everything that she knows, and she's probably one of the smartest people I've ever met. I mean, she can build you she can design all of the optics systems, all of the components, and actually put the whole thing together. And I think she probably has maybe a high school diploma, but is self-taught just by going and reading books and practicing here. She's worked at Leupold for 35 years or something like that. So
that's cool.
Yeah, no, definitely you can teach yourself nowadays, which is really nice.
Yeah. Okay. So then moving from Geldwin to, you said, was it Black & Decker?
Stanley. Yeah.
Stanley Black & Decker. Yep. Okay. When you made those moves, and maybe even from Stanley Black & Decker to Leupold, right? I know that moving careers is pretty difficult, right? It can be challenging, learning a new industry. What led you down the path of moving, and what did that feel and look like for you?
Yeah. So my first wife at the time just decided she was done living in Klamath Falls.
Okay.
Small town. She had moved down there when we got married, and she made it about 9 months and then said, I'm out of here.
Nope.
I'm going to Portland. So I said, oh, well, all right, here I come. So that's what got me looking to move.
Okay.
It's interesting that, when people are always trying to get into an industry, the requirements on the job applications always say, industry experience preferred and all that sort of stuff. But when you go to school, they don't teach you how to market hand tools, or they don't teach you how to market wood doors. They teach you how to market widgets.
Mm-hmm.
So the concepts are the same. The basics, building blocks of a skill set that you need, especially within marketing, but also within sales and within finance and within engineering, are the same no matter what industry you're in. There's nuances, especially in a role like a marketing role, or even a sales role. What they're really saying is we want to buy your Rolodex. We want to know that you have connections that maybe we don't have and we need help with, when they're saying industry experience preferred. Because the nuances for every industry are so easy to pick up, right? You can pick them up in a month if you need to, but it's the relationships that take time to build.
Yeah.
Which there's value there. I'm not discounting it. However, to move to a different industry in terms of learning those specific information is very, very easy. So yeah, I mean, I graduated from college with an economics degree and went right into wood and fenestration products. And I then went from that to hydraulic tools. And from hydraulic tools, I actually did a stint. I skipped over a job at a company called HB Fuller, which is a chemical company. It's like a 3M, so I went to chemical reinforcing products to optics. There's no thin red thread that ties those industries together. Sure. Right. But learning a new industry is very, very easy if you apply yourself. As long as you've got a basic fundamental skill set, you can be successful anywhere.
What did the application of yourself look like? I mean, like for me, I know when I sit down, I'm like, okay, if I'm going to look at a company, right, either I know about the company or I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do, if they're public, look at, whatever statements they've got. And then I'm going to look at their relationship and how the market views them, right? All of these different things, and then go product by product to understand how to speak the language. Mm-hmm. How did you go about that?
In the transition? Well, I mean, I just, like you said, I researched it. Again, like, I know I'm from Oregon, but I'm not a hippie. But this answer is going to be, again, a little bit like, what the fuck is he talking about? So my wife at the time had come home and said, I can't stay in Klamath Falls anymore. I got to move. And the next day I got a call from a recruiter for this Stanley job up in Portland.
Yeah.
So I didn't do a lot of research in terms of what I wanted to go do or where I wanted to be. It just sort of presented itself. To prepare for that interview, I did the same thing that, any career coach will tell you to do, is I went and I looked at their website and I looked at what the core values of the company was and what their vision was and what they produce, and tried to understand what some of the pitfalls within the industry, that specific industry, could be, what the opportunities were. Tried to, and then prepared myself for, and this is something that a lot of maybe career coaches don't tell people, but if you're ever getting into any interview, pick 3 specific accomplishments or projects or tasks that you've done in your past career, and just get those focused in your mind. Make sure you remember all the little details above it or about those specific events. Then you can apply those 3 events to any question that is ever asked of you in an upcoming interview. Just know a lot of people go into an interview thinking, I'm going to see what question comes at me, and then I'll just try and answer it on the fly, which some people can do that, right? They can talk on their feet, and that's a phenomenal skill set. But a lot of people will stumble, and you'll get a lot of people in interviews going, oh, that's a good question. I'm going to have to think about that a little bit. If you already know that no matter what I get asked, I'm going to answer with one of these 3 situations, then you'll be successful in your interview, because you can apply any one of those 3 situations to whatever question you're asked. And so that's what I did. I learned as much as I could about the company, its values, its vision, what its pitfalls may be. And then I had specific projects ready to talk about at the time, and got the job.
Nice. Yeah. I like that. The 3 things. I feel like I've heard that before, where it's like, hey, obviously go into an interview prepared. And I've done my fair share of both interview wing and then being the interviewee, right? And you can definitely tell a difference between somebody who is confident in their accomplishments and can speak to it intelligently versus like nerves are winning over all of the experiences that they've had, you know. Okay, so you've talked about relationships, right? And kind of building relationships when you get hired on, they obviously want the Rolodex. Learning an industry, you know, is not too terribly difficult. One thing you mentioned early on is when you moved into Leupold, right, and started to take over the marketing space. And this is something I'm interested in because it's fascinating, right? Is how did you go about getting the organization to buy into marketing being the quarterback?
I mean, I'm just fucking persuasive. uh, no, I mean it's taken a very long time. Luckily, we have great leadership here in our CEO at Leupold, and he comes from a marketing branding background, and
Okay.
so he agrees with that assessment. But it's just persistence, it's just time, and it's understanding everyone's motivations, right? So the message is the same, but I craft it differently depending on who I'm talking to, based on what they want to achieve, right? Sales wants to achieve a revenue number, finance wants to achieve a profit number, engineering, production want to achieve an efficiency number. So I tell the same story with just and highlight the result that could be possible based on what person I'm talking to wants to hear, for lack of a better way to phrase it. But a lot of people, and I don't know how to say this correctly, which is ironic running the communications department, but a lot of people want to, it sounds authoritarian, but a lot of people just want to be told what to do in a business setting, right?
Sure.
They're like, look, I'm here, somebody give me the vision and I'll execute it.
Yeah.
And so for marketing to provide that vision, it makes everyone else's life easier. And it's very easy to understand, right? It's been sort of a transition within our society for the last, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 years, for the positive thing that the consumer has more power, the consumer has more knowledge and more power and more choices. And so companies have to focus on the consumer. And so the story that I tell actually is a lot easier. It honestly I don't think has anything to do with me. You know, historically, way back when, companies had the power because they controlled all the information, and they just said, well, we're going to produce X and we're going to tell you why X is great and you're going to buy it. Now that the consumer has access to all types of information that are not controlled necessarily by third-party entities, right? They're not, if I go 10 years ago, if I went and read a review online, that review was probably written by somebody that sold advertising to the company and so had to write a positive thing. Now I can go online and I can get a review from a person that actually bought the product, or at least claims they bought the product, right? You still have to worry about trolls out there and all that sort of stuff, but the democratization of information has really helped the consumer. And so therefore companies have to be far more focused on understanding consumer needs and understanding consumer demand, which is why marketing then becomes the quarterback, because marketing is all about understanding the consumer, building long-term brand equity through customer insights. I mean, you cannot solve a problem with a communication strategy or a marketing strategy without understanding the needs, desires, wants, future needs of the consumer.
Yeah.
And so as marketing, marketing has always sort of been that consumer insights department. As that became more and more important, so did the natural progression to becoming the play caller.
Okay. So in all of that, because I'm listening and understand what you're saying, in all of that, what was the hardest lesson learned when it came to the democratization of consumer information?
I've never had to learn a painful lesson in that sense because I've always worked for world-class companies that had world-class products. But one of the very painful things that a lot of companies have had to deal with is if they don't make a world-class product or they don't offer a world-class service, their long-term viability goes way down.
Sure.
Right? Because you can't be a snake oil salesman for long anymore. You have to offer true value to the consumer. I think, and in terms of again, I haven't had to deal with it a lot. I saw a lot of maybe the old guard in companies just sort of walk themselves into retirement when that started happening, because more on the production side of things, not here at Leupold, but at one of the other companies I worked for there. They would want to do production a certain way to drive efficiencies, but long term that wouldn't have led to the best product, but they were going to do it anyway.
Yeah, that's fair.
That person, I learned after I left that company, he lasted about 4 or 5 more months, and then he got run out just because that type of activity was absolutely unacceptable for, again, long-term viability based on consumer experiences.
Yeah. Okay. So then in all of your either professional, educational, personal experience, what are some of the things that you wish you would have known going into all of this? And that's a super open-ended, it's one of my favorite loaded questions.
No, it's a great question. And I think it does a disservice to the adults in my life at the time to say I didn't know this, but I just didn't listen. Looking back on things, I wish I would have gone a route where I had developed a true, how do I phrase this? Because I don't want to say I'm not skilled, but an independent skill. Like I should have gone and become a doctor or a plumber or anything where I can go hang up my own shingle and work wherever I want. The job that I do now is fantastic and I love it, but I am tethered to where the company headquarters are. I'm from Oregon. I love Oregon, but if anybody's watched the news, especially in the area I live in right now, it's going to hell in a handbasket fast as fuck. So what the options that are available to me are cool. I can ride this burning ship into the cavern, or if I want another job, I got to look at a location where there's another corporation that needs the sort of skill set that I can provide. Where if I had gone and gotten, my doctorate or my law degree, or, I had my own electrician's business, I'd be like, sweet, I want to go live, in Timbuktu, and I can open up a shop there and do that. Medicine also is an interesting one because people are always going to get sick. People are constantly getting
job
sick,
security.
right? So there's job security there. And one of the other things from a young perspective is when I was 18, I was not ready to go to college. I should have joined the military. I wish I had joined the military, or done some sort of service program, right? Just, there's some countries out there like Switzerland and Korea and Israel and I think there's a bunch more out there that have sort of a mandatory service thing. And I don't know if it's because they just need the bodies in the military, or if they recognize that a lot of people at 18 are not ready to make that transition to full life decisions, right? They need that sort of intermediary piece where they've got more freedom, but there's still structure where they can figure things out. So I really wish I would have moved into the military and spent the time learning who I was, growing and maturing a little bit and getting a little bit more of outside life experience without having to pay ridiculous amounts of money to a college. So, and I paid for all of my own school through loans and work. So they were expensive lessons. So yeah, that's what I wish I would have known. But again, I was too immature at the time. I went and I had talked to all the military recruiters, and my mom told me, you're not joining the military. And I was like, oh, okay. Looking back now, it's like, no, I was an 18-year-old man. I could have done whatever I wanted, but I didn't even know that. I didn't know. I was like, no, mom said, no, I can't do it.
Right.
So I guess I'm just going to go do this.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So I'm hearing recognizing maturity for one.
Yeah.
And develop kind of like a self-sustaining skill to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You have to be able to offer value.
Okay. So another question is, it's interesting because I talk to a lot of guys that are not necessarily on the business side of the outdoor industry, right? I've talked to a couple. What advice or things would you like folks to know that are interested maybe in working for Leupold, right? That are like, hey, listen, I love hunting. I love being outside. I love shooting, whatever the case may be. And I want to go work for Leupold. What do you feel like people should know for working in an outdoor industry company?
That's it. So I would answer, I would do it a little cynically, and I would say Instagram is not real. So if you want to work in the outdoor industry, I would try and understand your motivations for that first.
Yeah.
Right. If you think that going to work in the outdoor industry means I'm going to get to hunt all the time and post my pictures on social media and people will love me, that's not what it means to work in the industry. That's what it means for some people to be quote unquote in the industry, but that's not what employees at Leupold or Hornady or Browning or Weatherby or the companies that make up the backbone of the shooting sports industry, that's not what they do.
Right.
They hunt and shoot on their own because they love it and it's a passion.
Yep.
And if you're passionate about it and you want to contribute to it, then for sure you can find roles at any one of those brands. So I would just have people sort of look at what their motivations are. Okay. And then if you wanted to get in, at a job at a company like Leupold, if you're, it just depends on where people are in their career, but say they're just coming out of college and they're just looking to get a foot in the door, be willing to take any job available. A lot of the vice president of product here at Leupold started out as what we call tech service person, which is the person that answers the phones. Mm-hmm. And deals with customers that have questions about something or want to order a CDS dial or, want to check on where the product's shipping, whatever. He had his master's degree in teaching, but he just wanted, like you said, he wanted to work in the outdoor industry. He wanted to be a part of Leupold. So he took a job answering phones. It's a great actual base for being successful here in Leupold because you have to know everything about every product we've ever made. Yeah. Because especially at a company like Leupold that, we've been around for well over a century and we've been making scopes for well over 75 years and those scopes don't break. You have people that are still calling, asking about a scope that they bought in 1950, yeah. And so you have to know everything about that.
Yeah.
So it's a great base to learn. And then, the keys to success in life are not hard. It's work hard, put your head down and grind. Don't expect anything and people will reward you. And that's how it happened here. Like I said, the VP of product who started out answering the phones just was the hardest working guy in tech service. And so then he got moved into a sales customer support role or something like that. And then he got moved to a marketing specialist role. Then he got moved to at the time we called it a program manager. We don't have that role anymore. And then he became a product line manager, and then he became the vice president of product. But he's no more gifted than anyone else, other than his work ethic and his desire to succeed.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, they're all cliche sort of things, but if you work hard, if you know what you want, right, you got to pick a goal and then work hard, you'll get there. But if it's, I want to get into the hunting industry to become famous, like, well, okay, sure. You can probably do that too. That's a goal, but you're going to have to work hard on it.
Yeah. That's nothing is overnight.
Nothing is overnight. Yeah. Cam Hanes, who is a, really big name in the endurance sports as well as in the hunting sports, is probably one of the best known archery hunters in the world, always says, I was working on I'm totally butchering it and paraphrasing it, but it's like, I spent 20 years becoming an overnight success.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you have to just keep, as he says, hammering, but you just grind, figure out what you want to do and work hard at it, and you'll get your rewards.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. Well, I feel like I'm fresh out of questions. Is there anything that you've learned or don't get asked often enough, or feel like you've gleaned from life that is worth sharing, that you don't feel like you get to offer up often enough?
It's a very interesting question. So I feel like very, very young. And I tell a lot of the people that work for me that are younger than I am, life is long. So don't worry about your success right now, right? It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to figure things out, because you're not supposed to be CEO at 27. Yeah. It's okay to spend time figuring out what you want to do, and it's okay to make mistakes. Making mistakes is the best way to learn, and learning is actually what ultimately helps you succeed. So I had a vice president, I'm totally going to steal his words of advice to me when I was 27, 28, 29, something like that. And I know it upsets a lot of younger people to hear it, and it doesn't apply to everybody, but I'm going to say, in your 20s you yearn, in your 30s you learn, and in your 40s you earn. So a lot of people, the young people, they want to make it now. They want to be successful now. And I get that. So did I. Shit, man, I was angry all the time because I wasn't running companies when I was 25. Like, God, those people were idiots. How come I can't? Why aren't they need me to do that? But it just, you'll get there, I guess is the thing. Be patient, be willing to make mistakes, know you're going to make mistakes, and know that's okay, and everything will be all right.
Okay. Yep. My dad says something similar about making mistakes, and I always forget, but basically, it's okay to make mistakes as long as they're not life threatening. And he says it much more eloquently, but basically it's like, as long as you don't kill yourself or ruin yourself for the future, mistakes are okay.
That's right. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you talking. This was fun. It was a good conversation because it was different than some of the other ones I've had. I talked to a lot of guys, like I said, that are cops and, mill guys and whatever, but this is one where it's like, I can relate much, much better.
Oh, good. Well, glad. I wasn't sure if that was like, oh, this is different, like a bent fork. So
no. This was like, this was good because it's, like I said, I feel like a lot of my audience, it feels like it's pretty, like, I would say, younger, right? So I think that talking about jobs and, I think that it helps provide insight for people that might be coming out of whatever career path that they're in, whether that's college or the military or police, that are looking for something that's like, hey, how do I think about what happens next, right? And it's like, well, it doesn't happen overnight. You got to fucking work for it, but you can end up doing some really cool stuff,
Absolutely. And the world and companies reward people that work hard. You don't have to work hard for long until things start happening for you.
Yeah.
Then the harder you work, the further up you're going to go. But it's not like you're going to have to grind for 20 years and then you're going to get to do something you like. It's like, you work hard for 6 months, people are going to be like, hey, that's a go-getter.
Yeah.
You need to do more with them.
That's true. That's true. Shane, man, once again, thank you for taking the time. I learned a whole heck of a lot, and it was a lot of fun for me being able to relate to your story a little bit more because, kind of like you, I have no military or law enforcement background, so it was a lot of fun kind of knowing that there are paths people can take that don't have those types of experiences, but have the passion for the outdoor industry that can take their background in education, for instance, to go pursue growth and development in the outdoor industry. So I hope everybody listening, I hope you all took some good information away, and yeah, be sure to like, subscribe, and review the show. Otherwise, we will catch you next time.